It was late afternoon inside a smartphone store, the kind of slow hour where nothing usually happens. 4 employees sat together in a room, talking and waiting for customers to walk in. The store felt calm, quiet, almost boring. Then the door opened. A man wearing a helmet stepped inside. He didn't look around or ask questions. His posture was stiff. His eyes stayed locked forward. Without a single word, he pulled out a gun and aimed it at the employees. Fear hit instantly. The room froze. No one screamed, no one moved. The robber believed he had full control. What he didn't know was that one of the employees was actually a police officer. The officer stayed still, reading the moment carefully. When the timing was right, he reacted. Gunshots echoed through the store. The robber panicked and tried to escape, but he didn't get far. He collapsed to the floor. The robbery ended in seconds. The criminal walked in confident and left defeated. Just after midnight, a couple stepped outside of a rideshare car in front of their home. The street was dark and quiet. No traffic, no noise. They were just about to head inside when 2 motorcycles suddenly rushed toward them. One criminal pulled out a gun while the other watched the street. A pedestrian nearby sensed danger and ran. The criminals moved fast, expecting fear and obedience. What they didn't expect was who they were facing. The woman in the couple was a police officer. The moment she saw the weapon, she reacted. Gunshots shattered the silence. The criminals turned and fled at full speed. Hours later, one of them showed up at a hospital with a gunshot wound and was arrested. The other escaped for now. The couple walked away unharmed. On a quiet street, a motorcycle with 2 criminals suddenly blocked another rider. The victim was forced to stop. One attacker stepped off the bike, gun raised, confident the robbery would be quick and easy. The victim didn't argue, he didn't shout, he stayed calm. That calm came from training. He was a police officer. Even with the gun pointed at him, he waited for the right moment. Then he moved. Shots were fired. The criminals panicked. One ran, the other escaped with nothing. No property was taken. The officer remained unharmed. The robbery collapsed in seconds. Late at night, a man waited on his motorcycle while a woman stood nearby. The street was nearly empty. Dim lights, long shadows. Suddenly, a gunman stepped into the road and announced a robbery. The man immediately dropped to the ground. His motorcycle fell beside him. Another criminal arrived to help steal the bike. As they lifted it, a black van passed by, distracting them for just a second. That second changed everything. A police officer nearby noticed what was happening. He reacted instantly. Gunshots rang out. One criminal was hit and collapsed. The other ran down a side street. The officer secured the area. The victims were shaken but unharmed. The robbery never stood a chance. It was night in a quiet residential neighborhood where nothing usually happens after dark. A police officer returned home after work and opened the garage gate, believing the day was finally over. He slowly pulled his car inside, thinking he was safe. But within seconds, that sense of safety disappeared. 2 criminals suddenly appeared at the gate. One lifted it slightly while the other crawled underneath, staying low and moving carefully toward the car. They were silent and clearly experienced. The officer noticed every detail. He didn't rush, he didn't panic. He stayed perfectly calm and waited. When one of the criminals reached the car, opened the door, and announced the robbery, the officer reacted instantly. Gunshots echoed in the garage. The criminal was hit and ran toward the exit. His accomplice fled in pure panic, leaving everything behind. Nothing was stolen. The criminals had chosen the worst possible house. It was broad daylight on a normal street. Cars passed by. People went about their day. A helmeted man approached a black car, acting casual at first. Nothing seemed suspicious. Then everything changed. The man suddenly pulled out a gun and pointed it straight at the driver. He demanded compliance, believing fear would do the work for him. He expected the driver to freeze. But the driver was a police officer. He didn't shout or make sudden movements. He stayed calm, lowered the window, and reacted in one smooth motion. Shots were fired. The criminal fell to the ground and did not survive. The officer stepped out of the car, secured the weapon, and made sure the threat was over. The robbery ended almost as soon as it began. Two criminals walked along the sidewalk, scanning the street for an easy target. Their eyes moved constantly. Then a motorcycle appeared at the corner. The rider slowed down, unaware of what was about to happen. The criminals stepped directly into the road and announced the robbery. The rider stopped and got off calmly. At first, it looked like the criminals were in control. They moved toward the motorcycle, preparing to steal it. But they weren't alone. A police officer nearby had been watching the entire scene unfold. At the right moment, he stepped in, drew his weapon, and ordered the criminals to surrender. One froze in fear and was arrested on the spot. The other ran away, abandoning his partner. The motorcycle was recovered, and the robbery was a complete failure. It was afternoon at a gas station. A Porsche pulled up to refuel. Everything looked normal. Cars came and went. Then a motorcycle appeared nearby. The rider slowed down, changed direction, and rode up onto the sidewalk. Gun in hand, he announced the robbery. The victim stepped out of the car calmly and handed over cards and phone without resistance. The robber returned to his motorcycle, convinced the plan had worked. But the moment he turned away, the situation flipped. The victim was a police officer. He drew his weapon and chased after the criminal as he sped away. The robber escaped for the moment, but security cameras captured everything. The footage would later help police identify and hunt him down. The criminal didn't walk away free. A police officer was driving home with his family. It was supposed to be a normal ride. Suddenly, criminals targeted the car. The attack was fast and aggressive, meant to overwhelm the victims before they could react. The criminals expected panic. Instead, they met resistance. The officer fired back from inside the vehicle, protecting his family. The attacker immediately panicked and fled the scene. The family escaped unharmed. The criminals learned the hard way that not every car holds helpless victims. Two armed criminals spotted a man near a motorcycle. He appeared distracted, like an easy target. They moved in fast, confident that the robbery would be over in seconds. The man stepped back slowly and carefully. He wasn't panicking. He was calculating. He was an off-duty police officer. In one controlled moment, he reacted. One criminal immediately ran. The other abandoned the robbery and followed. No shots were needed. The criminals left shaken, realizing too late who they had confronted. Customers were ordering fruit juice at a small shop in Barcelona when two criminals suddenly crossed the street. One pulled out a gun and threatened a civilian, stealing the keys to a motorcycle. The plan seemed smooth. The escape looked easy. But police were already nearby. National officers arrived before the criminals could get away. During the interception, one suspect fell from the motorcycle and was injured. He was arrested immediately. The robbery ended on the spot, and the stolen vehicle was recovered. An ordinary day at a fashion boutique suddenly turned dangerous when a man pulled out a gun and threatened the clerk. He expected fear and panic. Instead, the young woman stayed calm. She followed his orders, handed over the cash, and quietly pressed a hidden security alarm without drawing attention to herself. Feeling confident, the robber took his time. He even looked through clothing racks, acting as if nothing could stop him. He had no idea police were already on the way. Moments later, officers arrived and arrested him inside the store. The robbery ended without injuries, all because the clerk kept her composure when it mattered most.